Good morning, Mee Young. Thank you so
Good
much for
morning.
joining us for this. Joining us from Korea. How cool is that?
Yes.
Um, Thank you. I wonder, yeah. So, Mee Young, you're an educational assessment expert, and for those of us who don't know quite what that is, it's about, finding out if our education systems are working. And this is actually what we're talking about today as well. And you have more than 20 years of experience, and you've worked in educational policy institutions in Australia, India, South Korea, your own home in the US. And you've been a researcher, and you've also, been part of looking at the Program for International Student Assessment, which is the famous PISA system, among a lot of other things. And there's going to be a lovely long introduction of everything that you've been doing on our website. And I would urge our viewers to go through that in some detail. Meanwhile, let's jump straight to it. Mee Young, the reason the Goa School is interested the why education systems are working or not is really where we fit in our whole system sort of analysis as to why we even exist. Um, so the conversation we'll be having today is actually going to be very interesting from that perspective, but also very interesting for just people who've been through the system themselves, who are products of the system, who will be trying to look at it either because they're working in the system now or because they will be assessing it as, say, future parents and things like that. So let's just start broad and ask you, Mee Young, as a first question, what are your thoughts about what an ideal education system should look like? We have that in our minds, and it's a good place to go from.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Madhuri, for inviting me for the talk, and Paloma also assisting us and supporting us. And I'm very glad that I had a chance to talk. Some of the things I am familiar with, but I don't know if I can get the best answers for what Madhuri asks, but I'll try my best. Education as an idea should give opportunities to people or children to learn and prepare for their living. So basically, education, especially for primary and secondary education, has to provide foundations for the students or any learners to be whatever they want to be, whatever they wish to be in the future. And also we are living in a very rapidly changing society and environment. So we need to prepare our next generation to before that environment. So I think that is very, very important for us as an education system to prepare our children for the future. So at the moment, what we experience, just the speed of change is so much and so fast. We are actually, every day we are lagging behind. So what's going to be in the future? What's going to be needed? What kind of skills you need to survive and thrive in the future? That's the very important question everybody in education should ask. And in 21st century, what we are thinking it is important is rather than just memorizing facts. And just thinking of whatever repeating what you have read in the textbook, then something more. What are you going to do with those knowledge you acquired? So we'd like to nurture children in that way. So I want to share one. This. So everyone in the education sector we're probably familiar with this kind of taxonomy. So what this taxonomy is about is actually differentiating skills we have in hierarchical order, because after experiencing teaching and learning, people realize that there are different kinds of skills you can apply, but it's not all sort of independent, or it's all related, but some particular skills come first, and then other skills require much more training and much more learning, different way of learning. So in this taxonomy, what we can see is there is a hierarchy of skills. So when you're learning, first you sort of remember things first. You learn from reading, you learn from duplicating, and you learn from memorizing and repeating.
Right.
So once you get that knowledge, then students think or children start thinking, understanding what that means. So you want to understand the knowledge you remembered or you memorized. And once you have this stage, then again, you can apply whatever you learned in your life. So there is sort of hierarchical order going on in these different skills. So you once applying your knowledge, then another stage you can reach is analyzing or evaluating and creating. So once you have learned a lot of things and applied and analyzed and evaluated, then the creation of the different ideas or innovative ideas comes. So there are some certain differentiation of skills. That's what we are looking at, this hierarchy of different skills, and it's called Bloom's taxonomy, because that was the scholar who thought of this at the first time.
Yeah,
so
so
what
this,
you will, go ahead.
No, I was just saying this is an amazing hierarchy, because what it does show you is that you've got to be able to do all the things at the bottom of it first before you get to the point of, analyzing and evaluating things for yourself. And that's just so important. And that's the state that we want everyone to be at, rather than just sort of rote learning, which is at the bottom. So, and I'm very happy to see that hierarchy, that you actually do have, this whole thing about values. You have to be able to take a stand, you have to be able to judge a situation. And it must be so important really to put the right person there to help you through that evaluation in the beginning.
Definitely. So what we are looking at is nowadays what we call higher order thinking skills.
Yes.
Is these upper three skills: analyzing, evaluating, creating. These three are particularly called higher order thinking skills.
That's right.
So once you have foundational skills, then other higher order thinking skills you can build on.
And at what age do the higher order skills come in, Mee Young? Because I would imagine this is like senior school, or does it come through every level of
every level? Every level, basically every level. These skills has to be nurtured from
the beginning.
People start learning.
Right.
Children start learning. There are many things. Children are more creative than others, and children can also analyze. Small children also can analyze. So it's a very different way of sort of teaching students about these skills, but if you are not encouraged in school, it's very difficult to jump to this higher order thinking skills.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And then just to follow on something you said
Yeah.
earlier,
Yeah.
you know, where educators are probably tasked with this huge sort of thing, which is to try and imagine what the future is going to be like, because
Mhm.
we almost don't know this ourselves, and we are not really future ready as adults, you know. And then you're trying to teach kids to be like that, who will have a completely different future. You know, we'll be dead and gone, and we have to give them the skills to cope with the future that we can't even see almost.
So earlier, yeah, what I like to point out here is that earlier these probably bottom two of these two skills were pretty much emphasized in formal schooling, remembering and understanding. So somehow we are trapped in that sort of skills.
Yeah.
So, but people have naturally skills to apply and analyze and evaluate and create. So I mean, what we are looking at here is that because now we are living in the era of technology, so remembering is not really very critical anymore.
Right.
So what is more critical at this moment is going upward of this hierarchy ladder.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's like saying, you know, you have a calculator, when as long as you understand the principle of the math, you can use the technology
Definitely.
to get there faster, but you can't absolutely get rid of the higher order skill. So that's an interesting way of looking at it. So thank you for that, Mee Young.
Not at
So an
all.
ideal education system, I think, is there. It's right there for us to see on this diagram. Now, my next question would be, how far away is the world from this ideal? I mean, you know,
let me stop this. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the sense that you've been working like in places like Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Bhutan, India. Now, these are countries where I'm assuming I mean, we really are still stuck on that first or second level rung, you know, and the very little application, very little analysis. So what would you say? I mean, which are the countries that have this, and which are the ones that don't, and why don't we have it, and why should it be everyone's business to get there?
So, I mean, this is basically preparing our children for the future. What is needed, what kind of skills and what kind of ability is needed for the future. Because all these repetitive works are getting replaced by the machine. So, so remembering and collecting information is not as important as earlier. Then what should be the next? And many countries actually making a lot of progress on this. And what you call that developed countries, the developed world, they have a lot of higher order thinking skills or 21st century skills. They have all emphasis on these areas. So what they have started earlier is that something called competency-based learning. So instead of competency-based learning, what it means is that instead of reading the textbook and checking the, I mean, how much memorization students do, they check if you are learning English or if you're learning calculation. They sort of set up a situation and ask students to do the role play. Like you're thinking of you are a foreigner in some other country, traveler in some other country as a foreigner, and think about that. How are you going to ask in the store what you want to get? So yeah, people, I mean, the students has to experience the situation and apply whatever knowledge they have in the situation in a real life context.
Correct. So
Yeah.
this is I think, yeah, I mean, this is how you would see whether or not a child has achieved that
Mm,
that ideal. Um, what about maps? I'm very interested in maps. So, like for
mm,
example, or in terms of areas of learning,
mm.
which are the areas of the world where this idea really has to catch on? Like, has the world
So,
modernized enough?
so mostly the developed countries, they have shifted their paradigm of teaching and learning in that way, pretty much. So
Okay,
more interested what you can actually apply in your real life
right.
instead of memorizing the formula uh, of whatever you can have in the math textbook. Instead of that, how are you going to really apply it in your life? So
Right.
that requires curriculum change, that requires teacher training change, that
Mm.
requires a lot of changes actually. And as an example, in Finland used to be the
Yeah.
model country of education.
That's the one
And
everyone's heard of. Yeah.
yeah, Finland has become very, very advanced education model for any other main countries in the world. So what they had very interesting idea. They got rid of classrooms.
Yeah.
They have different rooms,
Yeah.
and they got rid of primary schools. It's
Yes.
not really classroom. It's a different spaces for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and students go everywhere, anywhere. Based on their interest and learn what they want.
Mm.
So it's a
Yes.
very really ideal place, ideal
Yeah.
system. It's very free and free flow. You
Yeah.
respect children. So
Yeah.
in that way, yeah, children friendly and very, real ideal situation. However, it's not very easy to do that
Mm.
because
So
teacher
it
has
must
to
be.
be prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
teacher
Sorry.
has
Sorry.
to prepare a lot, and the
Mm.
facility has to be different.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, that was actually what I was going to say about the teacher, which is
Mm,
that, okay, so I'll just dial back a bit. I can remember going to a sort of a
mm,
pre-primary school in the Netherlands for young boys and
mm,
girls, beautifully set up, etc. And at
mm,
different corners of the room done exactly
yeah.
like this. You could play with maps or globes, or you know, play with a cooker, with dolls, or whatever you
Mm,
like. And
yeah.
really, there was no, I mean, like the boys didn't have to go towards the maps. I mean, if they want to play with the
Mm,
dolls, they could. And,
yeah.
this sort of thing. But so you really have to have the teacher who is
Yeah.
also in that
Yeah.
egalitarian, advanced
Yeah.
mindset to be able to
Mm,
guide the learning through
mm,
right from the very beginning at
mm,
this level. And so I guess for countries like India,
mm,
that is the big challenge. It is also about
mm,
getting the education
yeah.
system,
Yeah.
the guardians of that system into this same sort of mind
Mm,
space, right?
mm,
So more on that later, I guess. But a
mm,
specific question, because I get this all the time. Now, I don't have kids in school or grandkids or anything like that, so it's
mm,
not something I think about that much. But where it hits me usually is in the working environment, right?
mm,
So we always like to pitch ourselves as this English-speaking, service-oriented workforce.
mm,
But at the end of the day, the people coming through our schools and colleges today, especially in India, in reality, are probably only semi-skilled or
mm,
semi-educated. I wrote an
mm,
article some time ago in which I was struggling with this idea of what is a good education. Someone in the Goa school asked us
mm,
that question, and I realized that if you have a mental map that you can update about how the
mm,
world works,
mm,
and that you can keep updating with everything that you learn, then that's a good
mm,
education, and it's a lifelong process, right?
mm.
So where would you say that in India the problem lies? I mean, going back to the
Ah,
question we discussed,
mm,
where is it that we lose the plot, where we
mm,
don't where we can't
mm,
where we're not being able to create these wholesome, rounded individuals with that mental map, with
mm,
that whole,
mm. Yeah.
way of functioning in a modern world.
Mm. So in India, there are many, I mean, innovative people actually making, I mean, education, I mean, phenomenal based on the whatever limited resources they have. I have seen. There are many cases, but the problem is that India is very, very big. India is
Yeah.
beyond your imagination in every sense. So, and also what you see as a cream of the Indian education is so, I mean, so excellent, so excellent. I mean, they can, those, I mean, bright people, bright young people can do anything, whatever they want, because they
Right.
have already gotten through a lot of things. But the thing is that what is the rest of it? So there are very privileged, small number, I mean, relatively small number, because India is a big country. So
Yeah.
those people shining all the time, then you
Yeah.
will, I mean, hear about anecdotes about, I mean, people making success. However, on the other hand, what is the average of Indian
Yeah.
education? So
Yeah.
that is the question.
Correct.
So yeah, so there are always cream of people who make, I mean, success in their life. However, those people living in village, students not getting really good education. Now, after that millennial development goal, the focus was increasing the enrollment, 100% enrollment
That's
to
right.
primary schools and
And
secondary
it's
schools. Yeah, but I mean that has actually I mean shooted the enrollment level a lot. So now I mean it was really India made a lot of progress in terms of getting children in school.
right.
However, the question is, are they really learning?
Yeah. So it's the quality of education.
Yeah. So what are
Yeah.
they doing in school? Are they
Yeah.
just sitting there and coming back? So can they read anything? Do they have basic numeracy skills? So I mean, after year, I mean year and year after having I mean surveys coming out, whatever you I mean report you see, it will say children not performing at the grade level they are in. Yeah, but again, this is not just India's problem.
Yeah.
Most of developing countries or I mean underdeveloped countries, they they have the same problem.
Now you have the eyes of an outsider when you're looking at the Indian system. And
Mm-hmm.
we have a very mad system in the sense that we've got the government system that tries to do things a certain way for
Yes.
education. And then you've got the private system that gets it right in some cases, but it's also pretty, that's why I say mad, because it's unregulated, it's sort of there are all sorts of schools mushrooming all over the place.
Yes.
And people unfortunately tend to
Mm.
evaluate school buildings based on whether
Mm.
they're clean, whether there's a playground, and whether there's a toilet. All, I mean, don't get me wrong, all really
Mm.
interesting things.
Mm.
But parents say it has to be safe,
Mm.
you should be
Mm.
running on the roads, etc.
Yeah.
But they're not really looking, therefore, at the quality of what's going on inside.
Mm.
And I'm wondering, what are the big differences there that you see as an
Mm.
outsider between private
Yeah.
and public? Do you
Yeah.
think the government got it right? I know there's a new education policy, for example.
Yeah.
Anything you would like to?
So yeah, I mean India has very diverse school systems, and the state has different way of governing their education system. So
Yeah.
it's very diverse in terms of whatever is going on in education. So there is government school, government aided school, private school, and there's this religious school or village school, panchayat school. Very, very different kind of schools are mixed all together, just like India as it is. What I see is difference between private and public school system is that public schools, the traditional public schools, they usually follow the new idea of education, and they try to adopt what the other peoples also do in other countries, and also they have some traditionally British schools. They have their own tradition, sort of. They have their traditional privileged children studying. At the same time, what I see when I first came to India in 2010, I went to some school visits in the field. And when I visited schools in Haryana and UP, in the classroom, I see more girls than boys in those villages. So I was asking, so why are there more girls than boys? So the answer I got was because parents send their sons to private schools and put their girls in public school. Yeah,
so here we're talking about two different things. I mean, one is that you have a son preference in India, and they believe that the private school is better, and so they send their son to the private school, and which is how there are so many more girls in the government school. So so it was, I mean, nothing to be proud of.
But again, you don't know how those private schools are really. I mean, it looks better in terms of facilities, but however, you don't really know if they're teaching really good or not. So usually there are, sort of this segment of schools we called it budget private schools. So this sort of, it's mushroomed in everywhere after that. So sort of these little private schools in village pops up, and they sort of sell it as a low fee private school, but at least you have to pay more than government schools.
Well, of course, I mean, we're happy that the girls are getting to go to school, even if that's the reason.
Yeah.
So you have this public-private thing, and then you have this other thing, which is around, I guess, primary, more secondary schooling, and the government for the longest time has been focusing on the primary schools, as far as I understand. I'm on the board of an organization called Transform Schools. It's actually working across several thousand government secondary schools in many, many states. I think more than 5 million children there. But their focus is on trying to increase the transition of children to higher education, so that get to those skills that we were talking about earlier, becoming, etc. And of course, they do focus on rigorous testing to make sure children have acquired the skills they need. One of the things they focus on their program.
So one more thing I like to talk about is nowadays a lot of governments actually want to have education as their focus. Many state governments. So they, like Delhi state government, they try to improve their education a lot. So basically, there is a new school board they set up, and they support facilities and also teacher training to prepare students for better education. So there are this kind of efforts keep on coming up. So I hope that it's going to make difference at the end. But I mean, most average, I mean, on average, it's very hard to see quality education in government schools. That's it's quite sad.
I guess if you had a scientific bent of mind, then the thing to do would be in this huge lab, India, to really find the things that are working and to try and scale those up. But we talk about that in a second. I was wondering if, while we're on the subject of testing and trying to figure out, how is it got, etc. Whether you could tell us a bit more about this famous PISA testing system you talked about. Finland earlier was.
Yeah.
So could you tell us, I mean, is it the magic? Why does everyone talk about this?
Well, yeah, I'd like to talk about it. There is nearly no magic involved in education. But what PISA does, PISA is actually the program for international student assessment. And it focuses on assessing student abilities of 15-year-olds. So what they see is 15-year is sort of the stage you are very close to the compulsory education and getting ready for the workforce. So they want to know how 15-year-olds can do, what they can do, and what they know. So PISA is a little different from other test kind of thing. So PISA is actually want to know what students actually can do with their knowledge acquired. So it's more about testing how they can actually apply their knowledge in real life situation, as I said earlier. So if you see one of the PISA sample test, you can see that they provide formulas to get to the answer what they want.
Right.
So it's not really memorizing things. It's rather than applying knowledge.
Right.
Yeah,
So
it's
about
about
what skills that you were talking about
yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
That we're interested in checking for.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really, really interesting. And then let's go back to this other idea about, how do we, are there like there's this term that I learned in my working life called random control trials. I also learned it back in college, actually, which basically means that where you do these rigorous studies, and you can tell us more about it.
So
and that will show us how to fix the system, what we can do better, what we can start including in our system. Okay.
So about RCT. RCT is one of the methods you can use to get the evidence. So the fundamental purpose of assessing students is to know where they are in their learning continuum. And once you know where you are, and you know how far you want to go. So it just need to know that where our students are first. And RCT is usually one of the methods we can use. You can use something else to know the students, where the students are better, then you should use other methods as well.
Right.
So RCT is, in terms of RCT use, it's quite limited, actually. You have to have a very strong control group against experimental group.
That's right.
So you can only cover that in one time with a smaller number of groups. So in terms, if you are interested in system, you need to do the system checking. So if that's the case, rather than RCT, it's better you go for some other survey style data collection and testing, like PISA or National Achievement Survey of India, the large scale survey that works better.
But I mean, if I can just elaborate, because I think I got lost a bit in my question, which was that, what I really meant was like the PISA result, for example, is a way of checking how your system is. It's like the result, right?
Yeah.
But what about like an RCT or any other research? I mean, I was just trying to research, which will tell you what has to go into the mix for you to get that result. So, I mean, that is basically then what other, like say if Delhi's government has got it right, then other governments can copy, for instance. I mean, just theoretically ideating, there has to be, they ought to be.
There are lots of there are lots of things you can do, you can use, but RCT, as I said, number of students will be limited if you try RCT only. So what RCT is good for is you can, if you have clear distinction between impact of some sort of program. So it's RCT is used for program evaluation or impact evaluation. So once you have that particular group who get the particular treatment or particular program effect, so if that's the case, and you can find the control group, randomly chosen control group, then RCT is something you can go for. However, the problem is that if you have small number of one-time study, it's very difficult to apply for the system-wise or generalize. So if that's the case, you have to have many, many RCTs all together to make the generalize.
So no, I'm just curious, because I mean, as a policy maker, like what would they turn to as evidence for the of a particular intervention? So
so those small cases are quite context limited, but like PISA style large scale survey, what I can show you is, let me see. There is one thing I want to show you and talk about how you use, how can you use these things? How can you use the data? So this is actually, I just quickly searched the PISA result of rankings. This is PISA done in 2018. 2022 is the latest one, but it doesn't really make much difference. So if you see, there's a subject, mathematics, science, and reading. And these are the countries who participated, and they have their average scores listed here in order from highest to lowest. I mean, there are...
Oddly, Finland is high, but not that high, huh? They're being beaten by...
not anymore, but...
That's right.
Finland used to be the top. When first they began. And these days, many Asian countries dominate the upper group.
Look at that. Singapore's on.
But still, we need to think about it. This is just a student achievement score. It doesn't tell how happy students are, how you can just make student as a testing machine, but it's different. There are so many things, so many different things. But what I can draw as a conclusion from here is that if you see, let's just say, where's the Finland? Finland ranked as 16th in mathematics, and 7th in science, and 6th in reading. So if you are a policymaker in Finland, What do you want to do based on this data?
Improve the math?
Our students are quite good in science and reading. However, they are a little below than other countries in mathematics. So if you see this kind of evidence, let's enhance our mathematics education.
Right.
Would that be the natural conclusion based on this?
And I'm just curious, where does India rank?
Oh, India didn't participate.
We didn't participate.
Yeah. So India supposed to participate in 2022, but they backed off, so they didn't. So India doesn't want to show in the rank. So, but again,
thing. So it's probably the one measure that you can actually compare across countries with, right?
That's right. So that's one of the reasons doing PISA, but more fundamental reason of doing, the countries doing PISA is to know where their students are lacking or coming behind, so that they can improve the education. Right. And you see here, these topper groups, it's more than 550, around 550. Anyway, it's more than 500, right? But if you go down to the list, the bottom, usually around 80 countries participate. Then it comes down to 325 at the bottom. So what does it mean is there's so much of variation or so much of gap between the higher topper countries and the bottom countries.
Right.
So this is something really, really, alarming. So if
Well,
you're
let me give you a reality check to see where you are on this, and then you would know how, say, a student from that particular nationality would fare, say, in a multicultural environment, typically. So this is certainly something to strive for. Okay, that's interesting. So our policymakers listening, get ourselves on the PISA list first, and then
So,
may not be the most important thing, but
so the gap, if you usually see the gaps between the top countries and the bottom countries, the gap is so huge, you can't really close this gap. So that's very, sad, but it's up to their own system, right? They have to really go beyond what they can do to get the pace.
Right. So this 325, etc., is a score out of a certain number?
No, it's not out of certain number, but 500, 500 supposed to be the OECD average. So like close to 500. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Let me stop share this. All right. So if you have data, it's knowing where your students are. So once you know where your students are, you can see how where you want to get and how you want to get.
Yeah.
So that's the role of policymaker. To improve their own education system based on evidence.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. Okay, so now that we've got the fundamentals of how to do that, I have a question for you on the teachers. Now, you see, teachers are obviously the central peg in an education system. They are the face child sees every day. And our country is beset with problems. Teachers don't turn up for work, and when they do, they themselves have been through a bad education system. They may not have received the right training for the job that they have to do, and they have to stand on their feet from morning till evening. Whatever, either finishing with school and then in corrections and things. It's an exhausting task.
mm,
So,
mm,
excuse me, what would you say?
mm,
Uh, I mean, what are your thoughts on how teachers are trained and paid, first of all? I mean, I think those are critical things.
mm.
And then how do
So,
we,
yeah,
as a
well,
community?
there's no really, I mean, only one answer, but as you know, that teacher is the center of education. Without teacher, nothing happens. So
Right.
that is, I mean, teacher's most important part of the education wheel. You really need to, I mean, improve your teacher's ability, capability to teach students better. However, I mean, it's very tragic that 19th century teachers are teaching 21st century kids. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
so there's so much of I mean their thinking is so fixed up. So it's very difficult to change whatever I mean they have already when I mean teacher already in the system.
Mhm.
And also the teacher training, I believe, is still following the old ways.
Oh.
So yeah,
Mm.
so it's very, very, I mean, difficult to break the thing. So
So
what
these are
me,
teachers who are not able to, who are not able themselves to be critical
mm,
thinkers.
that's right.
And it's very difficult then to lead a group of kids into that sort
Yeah,
of domain
yeah.
of
So
knowledge and information.
I mean, a few, I mean, part of my work is to help teacher training in HUTS, which is a higher order thinking skills assessment. We face teachers, I mean, who can't really understand beyond memorizing and I mean understanding, and further is very, very difficult. So you really need to go further, and I mean there are excellent teachers also, but in general, if you are trying to make them to understand that we need more of these skills to be taught in classroom, and you need to change your way of asking students, then it's very, I mean, we
What are
find
the
it,
other
there's a lot of hurdles. Yeah,
No, I'm just
yeah,
wondering what are the other things in that education wheel or other people or systems in that wheel? Because other than the teacher, I mean, if the
yeah.
teacher can focus on the subject matter, then maybe the other parts can be
Mm,
dealt with by assistants or other, other people in the education
mm,
system.
mm, mm. So there are teachers, there are school administrations, there are students, yeah, there are parents. All these stakeholders are under education wheel. So they have to go really together. It's very difficult, and everybody struggles going with in this system. So, well, I mean, teacher is the center of education wheel, definitely. So without teachers, nothing will happen. So basically, teacher training is so important, and teacher has to be really um, rewarded as whatever they I mean based on whatever they can do. So like I mean, what recently still I can see I can still say recently Bhutan, just example of Bhutan, they made teacher as the highest uh, in salary, I mean, receiving public servant.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, that's amazing.
yeah,
That's
it
really
is.
amazing. And I wonder if that's something we could ever do. Or at
Mm,
least put them in the same level as say the military, you
mm,
know.
mm, mm,
So that they that it's really
mm,
really respected. You can get people who want to
mm,
do the job. You
mm,
can have them to come in and sort of
mm,
really deliver high quality, high level stuff.
mm,
So I mean, as a
mm,
growing sort of an economy, I hope that's one thing that we can put in
mm.
up.
I mean, I hope that. I mean, you have National Education Policy 2020, and it just talks about a lot of education to be in India. It has a lot of sort of stuff I already discussed. And,
right. So it's a really good
yeah,
policy. And the
yeah,
question is to make it operational.
yeah, make it done is really, really difficult. But at least you have that, target or objectives. Where you are heading to is clear, very clear, and it's really right direction to go.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so how can we as general citizens support learning education? And I suppose one of the ways is to harness technology and let the hard work be done by tech.
Yeah.
Let the interest come from tech.
Mm,
Interest them. However, we don't want to build these sort of minds that are not thinking for themselves, which is also what happens with tech sometimes. You get
Yeah.
stuck to your phone or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, but like really for general citizens and all of us, what can we do to support
Yeah.
education systems?
And I saw that the small girl came with a dirt. She was having some toffees or something. She had it and just threw it on the
Through the
street.
ramp.
Yeah, wrapper on the street. So I was thinking, what is this? She goes to the best school in India and still does that. So, education really starts from home.
Yeah,
So
it's
you
value.
need to, yeah. So it's not that you can throw anything outside. And so it's like a civic sense has to be built, and also a lot of things to be taught at home.
Yeah.
School can't just do everything. So
No. Well,
yes.
this is the gap. I mean, Mee Young talk about this all the time, which is that when you look at some families, they're going from job to job. They not sitting around the dining table having this conversation around values. So it's not a lack of values so much as a disregard for them because there are other things that are more important, and that tends to happen in a growing economy in a poor society, etc. So, of course, the point really is that you've got to be able to be a good, compassionate citizen, and to me, that is the goal of all education.
Right.
And then within that, to look at what is it that interests you, and then to acquire the knowledge you need to get.
Yeah.
So, and education can also be self-directed, self-motivated, as long as the person who's receiving it, has a way to navigate the system, a way to navigate life, really. Life, universe, and everything.
So, yeah, but you can't really blame, parents. You can just defend parents that, they have to do every day. They have to work their ass off, sorry, to provide whatever necessity they have for their home. But still, if that's the same for anywhere in the world, everybody needs to work, everybody needs to, participate.
Yeah.
So you can't really say that that's happening only in India. So it's just not that you haven't built.
Should be no excuse. I mean, none of these pressures, whatever they be of life, should be no excuse for you to give up your good behavior. In fact, the people who behave well under pressure are the ones that
definitely
came through the fire. They are the ones that got the best, chances in life. So anyway, this has been a fascinating conversation. We've been all, the topic of education, I guess, and touched on so many things. Each one, you could have a book written on, if not more, a book perhaps. So thank you for sharing your thoughts, Young.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, I mean, it's hopefully just enough for anyone who's listening later on to start thinking about this and to put it into their own ambit, because no matter what we're doing, I think this is a subject that touches everyone's lives. Either you yourself have been a product of it, and because you're behind the book system for future generations.
Yes, definitely.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Madhuri. And all the best for the school, the Goa School.
Thank you. All the very
All
best.
right.